These hieroglyphs reveal the secret of Anubis's temple and why the priests erased it. Deep in the western desert, where the Nile's green edge disappears into sand and the land of the living becomes the land of the dead, there are ruins that do not look important at first. Broken walls, half-buried stones, collapsed corridors, dark rooms where the wind moves like breath through cracks in the limestone. Tourists search for pyramids, golden masks, royal tombs, and painted ceilings. They pass these places quickly because nothing about them looks grand enough to hide a secret. But the oldest secrets of Egypt were not always carved on the tallest monuments. Sometimes they were buried in the lowest chamber, behind the plainest wall. Under the temple, everyone thought they understood. One such ruin was connected to Anubis, the black jackal-headed god of embalming, death, judgment, and the path between worlds. Officially, this temple was a mortuary site, a place where priests prepared bodies, purified the dead, guarded burials, and performed rituals before the soul entered the afterlife. That explanation is clean. It is safe. It is easy to repeat. But near the western corridor of this ruined Anubis temple, a damaged line of hieroglyphs tells a different story. It does not describe a mummy. It does not describe offerings. It does not describe a normal tomb. It describes a hidden space called the mouth beneath the black gate. And according to the surviving inscription, the priests of Anubis were not only protecting the dead from tomb robbers, they were protecting the living from something beneath the temple. The first surveyors who recorded the corridor believed the text was symbolic, just another underworld warning carved for religious drama. Egypt was full of such language: gates of death, serpents of darkness, spirits of the west, judges of the dead. So they filed it away as funerary poetry. But the problem is that the wording does not behave like Tuusmite poetry. It behaves like a command. The inscription tells the priest where to stand, which stone must remain closed, which hour was forbidden, which name must never be spoken, and what must be done if the watcher beneath the floor answers back. That phrase appears only once in the surviving wall text, but once is enough. The watcher beneath the floor, not the dead, not the soul, not the mummy, not Anubis himself. A watcher, something aware enough to answer, something close enough to be heard, something dangerous enough that the priest had to be warned before entering the corridor. The public version of Anubis is familiar. He stands over the mummy. He guides the soul. He guards the scales where the heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at. He protects graves and watches over the dead. But older priestly fragments present another role, a darker one. Anubis was not only the guide who helped souls pass through the gate, he was the guardian who made sure certain things never crossed it. That difference changes the temple completely. In public religion, the gate of the underworld was spiritual. It belonged to myth, judgment, and resurrection. But in the restricted corridor text, the gate becomes physical. It has a location. It has a direction. It has a sealed frame. It has black stone around it. It has rules. It has silence. One nearly erased line says, "When the jackal faces west, the gate below must not be answered." That is not a hymn. That is not a prayer. That is a protocol. The western corridor is the first real clue. It is narrower than the surrounding passages, darker than the entry rooms, and built with a strange heaviness near the lower stones. The upper walls show normal funeral scenes, purification vessels, priests with lamps, Anubis standing beside a wrapped body. But lower on the walls, near the floor, the decoration changes. The lines become shorter. The signs become more practical. There are marks for standing positions, silence, sealing, purification and withdrawal. Some sections are deliberately scraped away, but not randomly. The ordinary religious scenes remain. The names of minor priests remain. The offering tables remain. The jackal symbols remain. Only the lower instructions have been attacked. Someone did not destroy the temple. Someone edited it. And the editing begins exactly where the text starts speaking about what lies below. Beneath the corridor, early reports mentioned a hollow resonance in the stone floor. Later descriptions dismissed it as an unfinished crypt, a collapsed shaft, or an irregular burial cavity. But no complete entrance was published. No decorated burial chamber was shown. No body was recorded. No funeral treasure was catalogued. And yet, the warnings on the wall point downward again and again. In normal tombs, warnings face outward. They warn thieves not to enter. They threaten intruders. They protect the dead from the living. But here the warnings face inward, toward priests who were already inside the sacred area. They are not written for criminals. They are written for initiates. That means the danger was not theft. The danger was doing the wrong thing inside the ritual space. A wrong word, a wrong step, a wrong answer, a wrong opening. The second clue is the black gate itself. The phrase appears in 3 damaged places, each time connected to Anubis and silence. One fragment reads, "The black mouth is closed." Another reads, "The jackal hears but does not open." A third fragment, scraped almost beyond recognition, appears to say, "Do not give breath to that which waits below." Ancient Egyptian temples often used symbolic language, but symbolism does not explain why the same command appears in architectural positions near a sealed floor. Black stone fragments were found near the base of the western doorway, polished smooth and fitted into the lower threshold. In Egypt, black could mean rebirth, Nile soil, fertility, and the hidden power of the underworld. But when black stone appears beside sealing language and instructions not to answer a voice beneath the floor, it stops feeling decorative. It feels like a boundary material, a ritual lock, a marker between the world above and the space below. The priests did not call it a tomb door. They called it a mouth. That word matters. A door opens. A mouth speaks. A door can be entered. A mouth can answer back. If the chamber below was only a grave, why describe its entrance as something that could speak? The third clue appears on a broken limestone panel once attached to the western wall. The panel shows Anubis standing above a sealed doorway, one hand raised as if stopping someone, the other holding a cord wrapped around a dark oval shape. At first, this looks like normal funerary art. Anubis guarding a tomb. Anubis protecting a mummy. Anubis standing between the dead and the living. But the hieroglyphs beside the oval do not call it a body. They do not call it a coffin. They do not call it a heart. They call it the silent one that must not be weighed. That phrase should not exist inside a normal Anubis temple. Weighing was one of the most important ideas in Egyptian afterlife belief. The heart was weighed. The soul was judged. Balance decided eternity. But this silent one was not to be weighed. It was outside judgment, outside burial, outside the ordinary law of death. The priests were told not to judge it, not to name it, and not to open the place where it was kept. Why would the God of judgment guard something that could not be judged? Why would a temple of death contain something that was not treated as dead? The answer may lie in Anubis's forgotten office. Before later Egyptian religion turned him into the familiar guardian of mummies, Anubis appears in older traditions as a god of thresholds. Desert edge, tomb edge, night edge, the place where human territory ends and the unknown begins. The jackal was not only feared because it scavenged near graves, it was feared because it moved between worlds. It came out at night. It listened in the desert. It sensed what humans could not. In one restricted phrase, the jackal is called the ear of the West. In another, he is the one who hears beneath the sand. These lines were later interpreted spiritually, as if Anubis heard the prayers of the dead. But in the western corridor, beside a sealed floor and a forbidden black mouth, the lines sound far more physical. The jackal hears beneath the sand because something beneath the sand is making itself known. The fourth clue is the missing name. Egyptian religion depended on names. To write a name preserved existence. To speak a name activated power. To erase a name attacked the person or being it belonged to. This is why pharaohs carved their names everywhere. This is why enemies had their names destroyed. This is why the dead needed to be remembered. But in the Anubis temple inscription, the thing below is never given a complete name. It is described by titles only. The watcher beneath the floor, the silent one, the one not weighed, the presence beneath the western threshold, the mouth below the black gate. The text circles around it, giving location, rules, restrictions, and consequences, but never the name itself. That silence is not ignorance. It is protection. If the priest believed that speaking a name could call a thing into power, then refusing to write the name was a form of containment. The erasure becomes even more suspicious because the missing sections are exactly where a name should have appeared. On the damaged limestone panel, there is space after the phrase, the silent one. The grammar expects a name, title, or identity, but the signs have been cut out so deeply that even the surface around them is wounded. Weather does not do that. Time does not carve only the dangerous word and leave the surrounding prayer intact. Human hands did that. Priestly hands, or hands ordered by priests. Someone wanted the ritual to survive, but the identity to disappear. The fifth clue comes from a lower inscription, almost hidden beneath the damaged wall base. It reads, "The chamber was not made for burial." That line is devastating. In a mortuary temple, such a sentence should not be necessary. If everything below was simply a tomb, why say it was not made for burial? Why clarify unless people might misunderstand the chamber later? The line continues after a broken section. It was made so the living would not enter, not so the dead could rest, not so offerings could be stored, not so priests could perform renewal rites, so the living would not enter. This is containment language, the kind of language used when a place is sacred because it is dangerous, not dangerous because it is sacred. The official explanation can absorb a lot. It can call strange passages symbolic. It can call missing chambers unfinished. It can call black stone decorative. It can call erasures damage. But it struggles with that sentence. The chamber was not made for burial. The sixth clue is the pattern of priestly behavior. The temple text describes a night ritual, but the ritual is strange because it is built around refusal. In normal funerary practice, priests spoke names, opened mouths, offered food, poured water, burned incense, and invited the dead to receive life again. The dead were awakened, restored, remembered. But in the Western corridor ritual, the priest does the opposite. He purifies himself, enters after sunset, stands above the marked floor, lowers the lamp, listens, and does not speak. If nothing answers, he withdraws before dawn. If something answers, the instructions become severe. Do not speak the name. Do not open the black stone. Do not weigh the silent one. Do not answer the mouth beneath. Do not remain after the second sound. This is not a ritual for helping the dead. This is a ritual for refusing contact. It is a ceremony of denial. Anubis is not shown welcoming a soul. He is shown stopping a passage. That may be the true secret of the temple. Anubis did not only guide the dead into the underworld, he guarded the world of the living from something trying to come out of it. The seventh clue appears in the surrounding burial grounds. Anubis temples were often associated with necropolises, embalming zones, animal burials, and jackal imagery. That is expected, but around this ruin, old records mention unusually dense layers of sealed animal deposits, especially jackals and dogs, placed not like simple offerings, but like boundary markers. Some were arranged along lines leading toward the western corridor. Some were placed near lower walls. Some were buried in groups facing the same direction. Officially, these were devotional offerings to Anubis. That may be partly true, but if the temple was built over a forbidden threshold, then the animal burials may have served another purpose. They were not only offerings, they were watchers, a ritual guard line, a field of symbolic ears and eyes placed around the place where the priests believed something below could be heard. The eighth clue is the erased festival record. A fragment from a later period mentions an annual procession of Anubis, but the normal route has been altered. Public festivals usually moved outward, allowing the god's image to be seen, celebrated, carried, and renewed. This record describes the opposite. The image of Anubis was taken inward toward the western corridor after sunset, behind closed doors, with no public witnesses. The phrase, "to calm the mouth," appears beside the procession line. Later, copyists changed it to calm the dead, which sounds normal. But the older sign does not say dead. It says mouth. Again, the same image returns. Mouth. Voice. Answer. Silence. The festival may not have been a celebration at all. It may have been maintenance. A yearly sealing rite performed to keep the black gate closed. Then came the erasure. At some point, later priests or temple authorities made a decision. The public identity of Anubis could remain. The mummification rites could remain. The safe prayers could remain. But the lower instructions had to vanish. The chamber below could not be described. The silent one could not be named. The black gate could not be explained. The reason Anubis stood with his hand raised had to be forgotten. So they did not burn the temple. They did not smash every image. They performed something more precise. They removed the meaning while leaving the mask. Future generations would see Anubis and think they understood. They would see a mortuary temple, a god of death, a few damaged walls, a few missing lines. Nothing more. That is the genius of erasure. You do not have to hide a secret if you can teach everyone to misread it. Over centuries, the dangerous chamber became an unfinished crypt. The black mouth became poetic underworld language. The silent one became a symbolic dead spirit. The sealed gate became a myth. The refusal ritual became a prayer. And Anubis became safe. A museum figure. A black jackal on postcards. A beautiful god of embalming. But the old wall still resists that safe version. It keeps pointing downward. It keeps saying, "Do not answer." It keeps saying the chamber was not made for burial. Modern archaeology has found countless shafts, tunnels, catacombs, animal galleries, and hidden chambers across Egypt. Many are ordinary, many are religious, many are exactly what scholars say they are. But that is why this temple is so strange. Its inscriptions do not simply say there is a chamber. They tell you how to behave above it. They do not simply honor Anubis. They define his role as restraint. They do not simply warn thieves. They warn priests. They do not ask anyone to remember the dead. They demand that someone remain silent. Maybe there is a simple explanation. Maybe the watcher beneath the floor is only a metaphor for death. Maybe the black gate is only the underworld. Maybe the mouth is only a poetic way to describe a tomb entrance. Maybe the erased lines were damaged by accident. Maybe the chamber below, if it exists, is empty. That is the safe explanation, and maybe it is correct. But safe explanations do not explain why the same restricted language repeats across separate fragments. They do not explain why the lower wall was cut with such precision. They do not explain why the object is excluded from weighing. They do not explain why a mortuary chamber would be described as not made for burial. They do not explain why priests were told what to do if something answered from beneath the floor. Imagine the temple as it may have looked on the final night before the inscription was erased. The sun sinks behind the western cliffs. The desert cools. The last workers leave. The public gates close. Inside, a small group of priests enter the corridor carrying oil lamps. Their feet move slowly over the marked stones. On the wall, Anubis waits in black paint and shadow, his jackal face turned toward the sealed lower doorway. No music is played. No offering chant begins. No name is spoken. The chief priest stands above the hollow floor. He lowers the flame. He listens. The others hold their breath. Somewhere below, beyond the stone, beyond the black gate, something moves, or speaks, or answers in a way the text never fully describes. And the priest does exactly what the wall commands. He does not answer. He does not open. He does not speak the name. He withdraws before dawn. Then, perhaps years later, another order is given. Remove the line. Remove the name. Remove the instruction. Leave the god. Leave the tomb language. Leave enough for the world to think this was only a place of death. That may be why the priests erased it. Not because the secret was false, but because it was too clear, too physical, too dangerous to leave in stone. The secret of Anubis's temple was not simply that a hidden chamber existed beneath it. The secret was that the chamber was treated as if something inside could respond. And Anubis, the god the world remembers as a guide of the dead, may once have been remembered by the priests as something far more terrifying. The guardian of a sealed boundary, the listener above the black gate, the one who hears but does not open. These hieroglyphs reveal a temple built around silence, a priesthood trained in refusal, and a warning carved for people who already knew the danger. The erased inscription was not meaningless. Meaningless words do not need to be cut from sacred stone. It was removed because it told the reader where to stand, what not to say, what not to open, and what not to answer. And if the priests of Anubis truly erased this secret from the temple walls, then the real question is not what they wanted history to forget. The real question is what they were afraid someone would hear again, beneath the floor.